Hey everyone, this is a quick proof of concept of this idea of an immediate mode UI scripting language, editing language for CAD or image applications. I guess it's inspired by the Ronin image editor, by 100 Rabbits, and also by lib5, which is already a CAD tool that's kind of similar in a way, but based on a very different primitive. You can see here that there's code that defines a CAD shape, and you can edit the shape in the shape preview with some direct manipulation tools, and it actually does change the code, which is a bit similar also to how Ronin does that. Ronin has these placeholders or helpers that you insert in the code, and then once you do a direct manipulation action on the canvas, it replaces the helper with the coordinates that you entered, for example, but they don't persist. Here they do persist, but it's kind of magical how this happens in there, and what I'm trying to do is kind of demystify that. So what we have here is the canvas or the tool and the code editor on the left, and here's some output. So right now you can't do anything because there's no tools here, and this is just a dummy, but this could be any other tool that lets you already manipulate those in some meaningful way, but sometimes you want something more controllable, and that's when you can hop in here and write some code. So here, this is just code that gets executed every frame, and I can write anything I want in here. For example, now there's like a line being drawn here, and this is done every frame. So I can also do some interaction stuff. For example, now it will react to the mouse. Yeah, so you can see this happens all the time, and if I do make an error in here, then it will log it here. So now with those tools already, you could do some things, but the main idea is that the API is carefully designed so that you have tools that at the same time display stuff in the canvas and interact with the canvas and are helpful in the code. So for example, I have a function called select objects that's in there, and I have to pass that an object from the state, a table from the state that it can keep its state in, because this function will persist state. This function has to persist its own state from frame to frame, and it doesn't allocate storage internally. It has to do that somewhere because it gets a rerun every frame. So I'm just going to give it some state called object, and this function lets me select objects that are already there and highlights them, and then it also returns the selection to the code. So here I can save those, oops, and then for example print the number of the ones that we have selected, and you can see that's 3 now, 2, 1, yeah, like that. So now that we have those objects, for example, we can write some code to move them somewhere. So we can loop over the object, let's remove that, e pairs objects to let's have a starting x value, and then every loop, let's move that a bit over, and then let's move the current object to x and down a bit. And as you can see now a preview of where those things would move, but they actually didn't move yet. And that's because the API is designed in this way that things don't actually impact things, they just preview what would happen. And if possible, then they also let you interact with that, which we'll see. Like with the interaction, you can see that that already lets you interact with that. Move, because you passed the position, does not, but move could be written so that if you don't pass a position, it actually internally calls another widget that has a position that you can drag around, for example. Right, so this didn't do anything, but now when I hit enter, for example, I will apply those changes and it will reset the state. So that's why the selection was gone now. Oh, and I just noticed that I have a small bug because it keeps committing that. I have to fix that for just a second. Commit true. Okay, that should be it. Just have to restart for a second. Okay, sorry about that. Let's see if that works. Suck, and it reset the state. There we go. And so now we could do that again. But let's do something else. What we can do is we can also select a rectangle. Also, sorry about the phone. I guess you can hear that also on the recording. I'm gonna mute it now. Yeah, select rect. Let's pass it something here too. What is that about? There we go. Okay, I'm not sure what that error was about before, but now you can see that there's a rectangle here that I can modify on both edges. And just like the other thing, just like the objects, it returns that to the scope down here. So now, for example, I can use that, and we can divide the width of that rectangle by the number of objects that we have plus 1. So now we have a step size. Then we can start at the top of that rectangle, top left corner of the rectangle. We can move each object to X and rect.y and add like that. And now if we select things, it will position them in a regular interval inside of here. Oh, I did a small mistake. This one should be already one part in. There you go. And now we can space things evenly inside this rectangle, for example. Now you could make this code a lot better and have it, for example, distribute them according to their size, because you can access the size of each object because you have the full instance, full access to those objects. And then you could place them in here. Actually, one thing that is still missing, is that here I have to subtract, for example, the half width of the object to actually center them. There we go. Yeah. Or, if we remove this and this, then they should be placed like that. Yeah. Okay. So just to wrap it up, I'm going to show one more handler, and we're not going to use these selections anymore. So let's clear the state of that with an escape. We can also place objects, new objects, and another selector that I have is the select circle. So let's have a circle here, so you can move it around. It has a handle that is for putting the radius somewhere. And then we can have another circle. And this time we're going to pass it fixed center coordinates. And so the circle will adjust, and it actually won't draw its own center handle. So there's only one handle here from the inside circle, and the other one will move whenever we move that one, because it gets those values over here. And if it does get values, then it doesn't draw the handle. That's just part of the code of this little primitive. And you can imagine how you can build much more complex, but also there's a lot of different primitives. Like you could make a slider and just have the slider positioned somewhere. You could have a function that draws a line between two things and things like that. Like you can build a lot of tools that can be reused and that can have a really nice hierarchy of tools. Like there can be tools for only visualizing stuff. Sometimes you just want to draw a line to visualize something. Sometimes you want to have a line with two movable endpoints. Sometimes a line that has one point stuck down, and so on. And all of this is very easy to do in code, and this allows you to use all the natural tools that code gives you to express those things. So it's a little example now. I'm just going to basically type this out because it's a bit more complex, but let's say exactly like I'm defining here count to be 20, which is, now it's just fixed. I didn't build a slider yet, but there could be a slider component that just pops up in the corner of the canvas and lets you choose that number at runtime. So then I'm calculating the fraction of a circle that you need to move between two pieces if they're spaced evenly at 20 units, like at 20 things. If you distribute 20 things around the circle, then the angle is step between them. And then I will iterate over that many items. I will calculate the radius for each one because I want to draw a star that goes between those things like that. So I will check if it's an even, If it's an even index element, then I will use the inner radius, otherwise I will use the outer radius. Then x is the cosine of that angle that we're at right now times the radius. Then here, oops, oh actually, okay, that was way overkill, but there we go. Still learning this editor, and so I want to use it whenever I get the chance to. There we go. Then we create a new object, call it object and index, and replace it at x minus 10, y minus 10, and give it a size of 2020, so the minus 10 is to center it on that location. And then we call add object, which previews adding it to the canvas. Okay, the mistake there. There we go. So now we have all those spaced, and you can see they react. Whoop. Okay, that was a bit much. They react to the circles. You can move it around, position it, whatever. And if I want to see the star better, because maybe I also want to do like the board outline on the PCB or something, then I can do that. It's a bit cumbersome in code here right now, mostly because I don't have vector math, or I don't have a vector math library loaded. But yeah, so we can visualize the line, for example, like this. You can just draw a line from the last object to the center of the current object. And didn't call it object, I call it O. Okay, what happened here? Oh no, I did call it object, never mind, that was in the previous example. There we go. Now you can see the star, and if I move this, whoops, move it over there. If I hit enter, commit that, and I add all of those objects. And yeah, so now, okay, well, just for fun, let's go back and do another select objects. And something I can do is I can pass in here a Lua pattern that matches the initial state. So now when I save this, I'll select objects like that. This should, okay, maybe it didn't work quite like I thought, but okay, whatever. Let's do it manually. I thought it would select those automatically, but I guess that needs some work. Tuck, 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 like that. And what can we do with those? I'm going off script here, so now I have to come up with a better idea. Well, let's just say we want to round them. Or how about we just move all of those? So I don't have a primitive for just the point right now, because this is a really like I don't know, 2-hour prototype, 1-hour prototype. So I don't have a primitive for just the point, so we'll just use direct, and let's just move every object to, oh, actually that works out well. We can, let's say the delta x, delta y is direct w, no, oh yeah, just width and height of the rectangle, that makes sense. Okay. Oh, because this is rect. Yep. There we go. Okay, and now we can translate all of those at once. So we just build ourselves a little group translate tool. And if I want, I could line this up, for example, with the center of the circle here. And then I could use this to, oh, it cancels out, so let's do the opposite here. It's not, oops, quite what I meant to do. There we go. So now if I want to move this one to right here, then I can do that. Oh, this is meant to be that way around. Yeah, whatever, I think you get the idea. I can move this one here and see all the other ones follow, and if I hit enter, then they all move. And the state of the tool is reset, so now I can do it again. I can click on some other things, move those over there. Oop. Move this one back in line with the other ones. Like that. Alright, so that's it. Let me know what you think. I was thinking that maybe would be worth implementing this actually into Ronin as a like a little fork and see if it works out more nicely than what it has right now, if it's kind of feasible. Because I think for algorithmic drawing here, it's kind of useful. I initially thought about this for PCB design, but actually most of PCB design is doing routing where you can't really use, where these tools don't really help you that much. Like this would help definitely for some artistic PCBs, or if you do like a LED array and you just want to move all of those LEDs into the right spot, but that is really not the majority of moments in PCB design. So I'm not sure if this actually pays off there, but I think for creative things, this could be well worth it. Also, if you think about some 3D modeling applications, I think could use something like this. So yeah, let me know what you think. See you around.